In the world of beer, the David versus Goliath story is one that's been going on for the past 3 decades. It's an industry dominated by Anheuser-Busch InBev and Miller Coors, yet the majority of growth this past year occurred in the smaller segment, the craft beer segment. But lately, a subatomic level of the craft beer world has emerged, producing a whole new set of Davids. And some ply their trade in nondescript, plain-looking shopping plazas, like the one here in the Merriman Valley in northwest Akron, Ohio, near San Run Metro Park and a stone's throw from Cuyahoga Falls. Meet a nano-brewer. Eli Smart is one of these Davids. His slingshot is comprised of carefully chosen Pride of Ringwood hops, Abbey yeast, and a homemade brewing system partially put together by a local welder. Throw in an agreeable monthly rent and some mason jars for glassware, and you have Trailhead Brewing.
It's been a long time goal of mine to have a commercial brewery. I always thought it'd be a really neat idea, a lot of fun, and I fell in love with home brewing, which obviously paved the way for it. But the wife and I spent a lot of time out in Colorado, and just the brewery scene out there is real different. There's a lot of little places like this where you go in, it's just a tap room, you get beer, and that's all you get. And I know there's a few in Cleveland, which are great, but there's none really down here in Akron. So when push came to shove, is it where we thought, it'd be a great idea, a great time for it. And I mean, especially with the way the craft beer industry and the cultural consciousness is going, people are they're into it. People are really excited to have a nano brewery down here in the valley for them. And I'm super excited to serve them. I mean, it's great. It's great to serve people my beer and get feedback on it. It's fabulous.
I meet him on a Sunday morning, the day after his opening weekend. He's already busy grinding grain that will be used for today's batch of a hoppy pale ale, called, interestingly, Hoppy Pale Ale. And he's grinding it by hand.
Well, I've got a 6 horsepower motor coming. I'm going to build a little mill table, but it's on the way, and I can't really afford to not brew any week, just because I only brew 1 barrel at a time. So if I miss 1 week, that's a quarter of my production for the month. I can't afford to do it.
Hoppy Pale Ale, Stout and About, Belgian Golden. Even the names of the beers are at a sort of primordial level. No fancy logos, no ornate artwork on a label. Not much on the surface anyway that would rival the already established Northeast Ohio brew pubs, and there are many of them.
I have a custom-built system. I had some guys up in Twinsburg weld it for me. It has a 100-gallon capacity, but I only like to do about 1 barrel at a time, so about 35 gallons. Because that way I can keep the beer fresher, I can flip my taps faster. Because with a small brewery like mine, my main attractive factor, I could knock out a new beer every week or two to get people coming back down here.
Several picnic tables dot the interior. There's a dartboard on the wall towards the back, as well as a restroom, and of course the brewing room, the brew kettle and fermenters, cordoned off from the patrons. Eli promises that eventually there'll be some pictures on the wall, and perhaps an air hockey table.
I like beer. It makes me a jolly good fellow. I like beer. It helps me unwind, and sometimes it makes me feel mellow.
According to the Boulder, Colorado-based Brewers Association, an organization devoted to promoting craft beer, 2012 was, believe it or not, a stagnant year for beer sales for the big boys like Anheuser-Busch InBev. For craft brewers, though, there's a growth explosion. The craft segment saw a 15% increase. In fact, the Brewers Association figures that there's a new craft brewery opening on average every day. I mean, I know why I like craft beer, but how does Eli Smart explain those numbers?
Nothing wrong with the big products, but they've been the same for 100 years. And they get the job done, but it's, if you go to Giant Eagle today, look how long their beer shelf is. You spend half an hour down there picking out a beer, and I think it's the choice that drives people, and having something new especially is generalizing to them. I've had a lot of people come down just excited that there's new, different beer here that they can't get anywhere else. It's kind of, I don't know if you ever heard anyone talking about trying to find that white whale of a beer, or it spawns almost like a collector's mentality, and you got to go out and you got to try all these new beers, so then you can talk about the new beers, and it sort of spawns itself into a culture where you're looking for beers, to talk about beers, to drink beer, to talk about beer, and it's a good time to be making beer.
Okay, so small unadorned space, dedicated brewing alchemist operating on a shoestring, someone who's transformed his longtime hobby into a business plan. This is brewing at its most organic. Eli Smart, nano-brewer, has gone pro. Great prologue. So now to the real issue. How are the beers? I start with the Stout and About, his low alcohol session beer.
Yeah, this is really nice.
Thank you.
This is really well balanced. Yeah, this is almost what I would perceive that the English had in mind when they first started making porters, you know, where people wanted to have a couple of beers during lunch and then go back to work, you know. This wouldn't set you back where you wouldn't be able to operate machinery.
No, you can get on and have lunch, have a pint or two with it, and be fine.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, how about the Belgian Golden? It's superior, wonderfully quaffable ale, perfect for thirst quenching after a hard ride through the nearby metro parks. And that Abbey yeast makes for exceptional balance and really, really nice flavors.
With a nano-brewer tap room, I can focus solely on beer. I don't have to worry about food costs. I don't have to worry about making sure my cooks are working hard. I come in, I do my job, I make beer, I taste it, I test it. That's all I worry about. I worry about beer 24/7. I have no other concerns. I think that's one of the reasons you're seeing more nano breweries. People know they can focus on the beer, put out a great product, and be successful without all the bells and whistles. And there's nothing wrong with a brew pub. It's a lot more to think about. You can't focus 100% on your beer product.
Hop and Frog, another Akron area brewer, and an award-winning one at that, opened its own tasting room at the beginning of the summer, so the concept is catching on. And there are at least 3 other Akron area nano brewers, either in the planning stages or already producing beer for on-site consumption and or takeout. Potential award-winning beers or not, here in a small plaza in the Merriman Valley, Eli Smart's hand grinder lets the Goliaths and the rest of the craft world know that it's all about the beer.
This little refrain should help me explain. As a matter of fact, I love beer.
For NPR, I'm Matt Anthony in Akron, Ohio.